content over everything. Be James or Abu, who would you be? From that dynamic I've told. 400 years worth of stored wealth and land, plus reparations for damaged property and changing the business, right? Versus an enslaved person who has no money.
You're not enslaved. Your forefathers were,
not me.
You're
Remember,
not.
Before we can.
But I think you've still got the mindset of that.
Oh no.
I'm careful what words I choose.
But what I'm saying is we haven't answered this question yet, so the next question makes no sense, right?
Because you're dwelling in the past. You're not dwelling on your current wealth, your current abilities, your capabilities, your potential. You're dwelling on something that was a long time ago.
So the thing is, what is motivating my actions today is the past. So I'm trying to give you
why?
Here's why.
Why?
Because
it was really bad shit.
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying that the legacy of that I still see today. The legacy.
Which is what? What's the legacy that you see?
The mindset.
It's mindset. So what mindset does James have? Well, let's take James out of it. What mindset do you...
You can probably point out to other kind of lasting effects. You can sort of talk about things like that.
Well, it seems to have a lasting effect with some people, but not with other people.
Well, I would argue that the people group I represent collectively are showing the legacy of that hasn't been.
But you must. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But there are so many swathes of many black people.
Yes.
Aren't maintaining this historic legacy.
Well, so for example, right.
And they tend to be the successful ones, in my humble opinion. Because they're focusing on the future, they're being positive, they're not dwelling in the past. They're saying, I've got ability, I've got capability, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be at the top of my field.
Do those people come back and try to fix the communities they're from?
Well, that's another question. They should do. They should do all they can to help.
Now, what I'm saying is,
that's
for me,
view. Other people might say, no, it's got nothing to do with
Well,
it.
that's my problem I'm trying to fix, because I'm saying it's all holistic. It's all connected to that same concept that happened many years ago. And it's much deeper than we're saying.
Do you know, a few years ago, I was on a train from Paddington to Slough.
Yes.
And it was quite a crowded train, and I was standing in the sort of lobby sort of section. And there was a young black lad.
Yes.
And then there was an older black guy. The older black guy was clearly drunk, I would say.
Okay.
And he was swagging around, and he was talking to this young lad, and the young lad looked awkward.
Right.
And this black guy was basically, in my view, being very racist and saying, he was, in his words, I can't remember his precise words, but he was being innately, bluntly racist towards white people. And he's saying, you're never going to be successful because these bastards are still enslaving us. And that sort of narrative, in a drunken, silly way on a train.
Right.
That guy got off at the next stop. And the young black lad looked at me like really embarrassed. And this lad, he must have been about 15, 16, something like that. And I said to him, you are capable of doing whatever you want to do. Don't listen to a word that twat just said to you. You be your own person. You will be capable. I'm sure you'll have great skills, or you've got great skills. You go ahead and do what you want to do. Don't listen to that. Because I said, if you listen to that, and if you dwell on what that man just told you, you will never go anywhere. But I'm thinking that you might disagree with what I said then, and actually that lad should be focusing on what that silly old fool was saying to him. Because that silly old fool was just sowing negativity, rather than encouraging that lad to go ahead and be strong and study.
The fact that he was a drunkard is the problem.
But what he was saying, I could say he was saying in a drunk, silly way, maybe a bit of what you're saying.
Well, I'm thinking for structure, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you have structure? How do you look at the masses of black people who might not be doing well, and you get them to actually do well? I say structure. You have to have a purpose and a cause.
Good education, all the obvious things.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, what kind of education? The education I'm pushing forward is recognizing the past to make sure it never repeats again, and showing unity to make sure that there's a progression of unity. So, for example, you might get 20 well-to-do black athletes or black bankers, but if they marry Europeans, they never come back to the community, then what value does it
matter
have?
who they marry?
Well, what I'm trying to tell you now is in like how communities work, right? If you leave the community...
You see, I agree, I disagree. You've just said what they'll go... If they go away and marry white Europeans, and you see, I get a hard time from the real far right. Often I'm accused of being far right. The far right give me a hard time, because to me, when we all, this is a crass way of putting it, but when we all end up cappuccino coloured, the world will be a better place.
Right.
I think race mixing is a good thing.
Right.
I think, we can just look around us. You're one yourself, I think. I might be wrong.
No, I'm not
We're
really.
dealing with a world
But
where
there is an
people have
increasing
this
proportion of British society that are mixed race. That is good, I think. And that's a positive direction because it is removing one area of difference that
You
we
agree,
can
Ray?
fight about.
I disagree
So I think race mixing is good.
No.
Biologically, it's strong. I mean, it is literally the same with cats and dogs. Pure inbreds are unhealthy. They're mad. They have
Can we
less
do a little
stable
digression?
mindsets.
That's not good. That's not good
Mixed
science.
race
though,
people
right there.
tend to be healthier, psychologically stronger, and it's a good thing. We don't want to protect racial purity. That's a silly, crazy thing.
No. So what I'm saying is, in order for you to actually go and find love, you first have to have self-love, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And one of the challenges we face in the community is many black people don't have self-love. So
Self-love is about you as an individual, not about the clan that's
Well, hold
you're
on.
part of.
Well, like I said, and one of the challenges we face is many black people don't like being black. Right?
Really?
Yes, well, you would know because you're not black, but I'm a black person, so I can tell you.
Maybe there are some white people that don't like being white.
And you have to fix that. Now,
Some people probably think I am, but I'm
maybe,
not.
but you should fix that, and I will try to stop. What I'm saying is, so my job is to make sure that a person has self-love. Many of the people you find looking outside of the black community for love is they're trying to fix that self-hatred. So I need to make sure that they have self-love when they're looking for love.
There are people that you go as far as say they have self-hatred.
Of course, yes. 100%.
Why do you think they've got that self-hatred?
Well, you might not want to speak about it, but this stuff.
Well, I'm asking you, so I guess I do.
Well, just because I'm going by your last response. It all stems from the slavery. It all stems from how you feel what happened in that process, and then the people who were enslaved, what they passed down because there was an education. So after slavery was broke, they still maintained the verbal abuse that came from the slave master. So they'll still say that whites are superior, blacks are inferior, dark skin is ugly, light
Way
skin.
of getting. So, do we agree that we should get people out of that mindset?
Well, that's what I'm doing. But I'm not doing it on your terms, I'm doing it on black terms.
I don't know whose turn.
No, it does matter because. But
You're focusing everything.
what you're doing
on
is
the
talking
race.
over the. Well, no, what I'm saying.
I do that.
I understand. It's something.
Don't take it personally.
What I'm saying is generally, when it comes to being dominated, you have to set the pace. Meaning, a European can't call you rubbish and stupid, and then they go, "You're not rubbish and stupid." They go, "Yes, the European said I was rubbish, so I'm not rubbish."
In the past.
Oh, the European says I'm good, so I'm good. You just have to do it for yourself. So right now, I shouldn't necessarily be talking about Europeans. That's what we're ever talking about is Africans or black people, right? So my thing is, how can I make black people love black people? So if you want to talk about miscegenation, mixing and stuff, you can do that. But that's not in my vocabulary because my thing is to make black people love black people. That's not saying that Europeans are not good. What I'm saying is there is a value in black people loving black people to work on black issues.
And that's a wholly separate.
example to that model of how communities work, right?
Go ahead.
So, for example, the Jewish community kind of has some sort of in-group preference. You know, there are lots of Jews who say, "Oh, you should marry in rather than marry out," but they do also. I think they have also kind of benefited from where they have married out, and then they kind of bring the sort of person that they've married. They kind of bring them and their offspring to sort of bring up feeling I'm fully a Jew, I'm like totally Jewish, and so they haven't diluted their community to a detriment. So like, do you think that's something that could be replicated, or
So
how do you
right
counter
now,
that?
there's no black person who I see who marries out of a black community. Whoever they marry, they bring back to the black community to benefit the black community. Most of the time, for example, you have a rich athlete who's a millionaire. Once he marries into the European community, he pretty much is part of the European community.
He's departed. He's left.
Well, yeah, by his own choices, not through our choices.
So what if a white woman marries a black guy
Yeah.
and is part of the black community, lives with them, socialises with them?
Well, what will happen is she will have to demonstrate that she's about black birth.
She'll have to demonstrate what?
That she's about black birth, meaning that she's going to take a rich black person and use his wealth
Well, I
to build.
wouldn't say he's rich. might be
Okay,
poor.
well, usually you would only want to marry someone because they're doing well. If you want,
Many poor people getting married.
Well, from the context I'm talking about is the people who are trying to change, who have the ability to change society, and those are the richer, the well-to-do.
But not only, is it? It's not only rich people that can make change.
Well, it depends really. It depends on the change you're trying to talk about. I'm talking about like actual structural change, really tangible stuff.
Can you? I'm guessing the answer might be no. But can you not even imagine by chance, falling madly, deeply in love with a white woman?
No.
I don't know whether you're single or whether you're married or whether you've got a partner or whatever, but why you're so absolute about it?
No. So
It might happen one day. What would you do then?
no, it wouldn't happen.
Because you'd resist it, you'd fight it, even if the feeling started.
Women are beautiful. Like
All of them, not well, many of them.
The way I say it, all women, whether they're Asian, European, like, they're made to be beautiful, right? This is how, as a man, we would see things. But to love someone is more than lust. You know what I mean? It's more than physical. It comes to structure, and for me, the love of me wants to fix damages in my community is a great love, and that's something that I want to share with my partner. So so it's something that I want to resonate with. So there might be a black woman who doesn't care about fixing black people. So I will struggle to have a certain love for her because while I'm doing my everyday work, she's like, "What are you doing? Why don't you just come and..."
Never say never, though.
Well, maybe. What I'm saying is this, right?
Yeah.
So, from my understanding, most Europeans are not necessarily going to be about helping black people. They're going to be about...
Some of them are pretty...
What I'm saying is, if I'm trying to train black people on how to do for self, I'm looking very ignorant or very peculiar to turn up with a European when there's so many willing black women out there. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, does that mean that Europeans are ugly? No, Europeans can have the capacity to be attractive, but it has nothing to do with marriage. Marriage is so much more deeper than just lust, whether you believe that or not.
That's like saying, you could never fall in love or never marry someone of a different political view, or, a Remainer can't marry a Brexiteer as an obvious example.
Yeah, these are possible. What I'm saying is...
I think that's a bit sad that you're limiting love
Yes, I am.
to your political view.
Of course, definitely, 100%. Because that's...
Should love be bad?
Love is a holistic.
I'm not asking, no.
Love is holistic.
Behave, Leon.
Love is holistic, though, isn't it? It's more than just
Love can be beyond anything.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
You could happen to cross paths with a white woman with a completely different mindset, and you might be bowled over and be out of control.
Yes, Raven, give it a try,
no,
brother.
it wouldn't happen.
Never say never.
No, I suspect I could look at a European woman and go, "That's a very attractive."
But you said
woman.
it's not just about lust, is it? So
Yeah,
beauty,
but-
skin deep,
yeah.
and everything.
So what I'm saying is, here's how it works, right? You have to get to know someone and back and forth before you can love someone.
You can have back and forth with a white European woman.
Yes, but the back and forth, where's it
I
going?
knew you'd like that, Leo.
The back and forth will have to go like how
Both ways.
What are you willing to do to benefit my community? What am I willing to do to benefit your
A
community?
marriage, she marries you, not your community, and I suppose that's what would be wrong for you. She has to marry your community, not
No,
just you.
she has to marry me, but she has to be part of the work that's going to make our community better, because our community has suffered so much, and it will never change if people like myself don't exist. If people like myself don't exist, every negative, bad thing you ever
You're
see...
dwelling on it, though.
It's
You're
not
dwelling on the past.
I'm glad you said that.
Rather than focusing on the future.
I'm glad you said that, because what I am doing is to focus on the future. Because if no
By
action-
dwelling on the past.
No, by observing the past and making actions to change it. You see what I'm saying?
You agreeing with it?
I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying.
How can I change something if
there
I
might
don't
be
know?
details, like the degree or how we imagine that might play out to be different, but in principle,
Yeah, I'm actively recognizing
it's a
that
coherent
people
worldview.
who identified as black people have gone through an experience that have left them in a condition where they are not competing at the level they could be.
Some of them are, and they don't have the same mindset.
But hold on,
So therefore, to me, that proves it's about the mindset,
well, hold on. Some
not the
people,
historical heritage.
in my observation, if a black person is doing well for themselves, but they do absolutely nothing for the black community,
They're not
then
doing
they're
well.
unworthy of this conversation, because they'll just be amalgamated into another community, and all their benefits will go elsewhere. And the only benefit that we will get is symbolic benefits, like, look, there's a black person doing well. Yay!
Raven, can I ask a question?
You can ask.
You want to prioritize, black people marrying each other.
Yes.
If you tell people that marrying out is a sort of less good thing than marrying
I will never
in,
say that. I'll never say that. I will never say that.
Are you
just saying for
kind of
yourself.
recommending it, or are you advising it to other black people?
I'm saying that there is a value from black women to marry a black person. There is a value, and the value is you understand that the black woman directly has been through so much trauma, and one of the best solutions for her is love. And right now, before you can love other people, you have to love your own. Right?
So you are literally saying every black person is traumatized.
But what if the ramifications?
say
What if
that.
the ramifications of you saying that are that black people who have married someone of another race?
You've asked me
done
that
something
before.
wrong, or that they're being
You've asked me that
sort of,
before.
criticised for
No,
their,
it's not
for
your
their
fault.
judgments.
It wouldn't be-
Is there a possibility that that spreading this kind of message could make people feel like got at or attacked in some way?
No, because the way I say things is love has no color, and I wasn't there when these things were happening. So if you had married a European or a non-African, non-black person, you can still practice black betterment in different activities. You couldn't practice it in the activity of marriage because you're not practicing black betterment in marriage, but you can practice it in economics or in social interaction,
The enemy within.
sporting, whatever, but not in the activity. But one thing is, I must never mistreat black people for making a choice who they marry. But I have to try to get through them that in order for black betterment to work, there must be a value of black men loving black women and vice versa.
Okay.
There's always going to be circumstances. Like I believe that black people are collectively compromised and collectively inferior. And being part of this concept means that you are always going to look at non-black people as better looking. So I suspect that when you have that kind of mentality, you're naturally going to pick a non-black person and black person, hands down. So, but I'm trying to fix that reality. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And another sort of question that just occurred to me is that what you're trying to do is sort of change mindsets or even change culture.
Of course.
In the olden days, kind of culture would change either by rapidly changing technological circumstances or top-down enforcement by a ruler or a king or a pope or something. What are the vectors what are the means that you're going to try and use to change culture?
So
what's effective?
What's fortunate about black people collectively is you can have a music in, say, America or Zimbabwe, and they might shake their bottom a certain way, and give it 4 weeks, every black person is shaking their bottom a certain way, right? So what I'm saying is, black betterment is symbolic to shaking your bottom a certain way. And I'm now on camera shaking my bottom a certain way, hoping that every black person shakes their bottom a certain way.
Okay.
You see?
So not literally using music, but you just mean that like you think sort of black people kind of copy each other more.
So right now I'm
understand.
useless, right? See, right now I'm in a low state of uselessness. But in my useless state, I might say one thing very useful, and someone in the internet world who has much more reach than me might go, you know what? That guy actually makes some sense. I'm going to use my platform to promote that philosophy.
Yeah, I didn't mean it in like a kind of what are you personally doing type of way.
No,
I mean like
yeah.
if you
No,
suppose
but
someone had the means,
But I'm talking about
what would be the effective ways to?
So it would be like your lifestyle. So for example, we just talking about marrying Europeans. I would want the rappers and the actors and all that to actually go and talk about the love they have for their black sisters. Like, isn't it amazing? And actually like make that to make movies. And in the movies you see beautiful black men and beautiful black women come together and having beautiful families and making that trendy.
So you don't see that?
I don't see it enough consistently. And once that happens, then that becomes a norm, like looking at that. Yeah. So once you have the norm, when you're picking your wife, it's more on an equal playing field. It's like, I understand the values of black betterment, or I don't want to do it. But I understand that I have a choice now, rather than I'm chasing non-black people because I have lost self-esteem.
I mean, you might not have familiarity with this other community, so you might not be able to comment. But it's kind of different communities, especially when they're living as sort of diaspora in another sort of majority community country. They kind of think about their position in society and what kind of problems are afflicting them and their mindsets and that sort of thing. And so, for example, like East Asian people who kind of like have some sort of similar questions running through their mind, like. And so, and this is going to sound like broad brush strokes and like kind of annoying stereotypes, but like I know there are, for example, in America, kind of members of East Asian people who sort of think, okay, we've got a good community in some ways. We have like good education and we're doing well economically, but still there's this image problem where kind of they aren't showing kind of Asian people in like a kind of masculine light, and and whereas kind of like, and they might look at kind of black people being portrayed in a masculine light and maybe in a more confident light, and they see these portrayals as like you know, a benefit. And so kind of I know, would you prefer to be in the situation where kind of, I know, maybe your community's economic means were more secure, but perhaps your image was kind of like a bit less secure than it is now? Or are you happier kind of, which would you prefer to be, do you think?
Before I answer that, I would say that you might be inaccurate in how you're describing the image of the black person, because I don't see the media necessarily describing the black person as this kind of like alpha male looking after his family, dominant. I usually see stereotypical stuff like over aggressive. You know, not real love for the woman. If they have their choice, they wouldn't necessarily pick the black woman, another woman, right? This is not productive for black people. This is.
But unfortunately, it can be a reality.
This could be the same equivalent of when some Italians were very upset that the only time you saw them was in gangster rooms. They're like, and people, but it's very macho. It's very, you know, strong. Like, shooting people and stuff like that isn't really upholding our culture. So I would say the only way to tackle that is by black people upholding media and doing movie concepts and stories that actually are more rounded. So you see families, you see farmers, you see whatever, right? Rather than whatever the European director or whoever director producers will say, this is what we need to have, this is how we want black people to represent themselves. So, but saying that, I would respect the Asian person to try to change that narrative to be more than just kung fu people, brain boys, or whatever it is that they say they are. And also, there's an issue within the Asian community, for example, where there's many operations being done on the eyes to be more European. This is a problem. Like you have Asians who have a very distinctive eye group, which is only seen in Asia and maybe the San people in Africa, and yet they are trying to change that to look like European. Just like you have Africans with very particular distinctive hairstyles, and they're trying desperately to look not either the opposite of that, or European, whatever. So this is showing you that this kind of way of thinking is quite widespread. So that's why people like me have to be dedicated, or the Chinese equivalent, or the East Asian equivalent, have to stop these women and men from getting these operations, marrying out, or just doing kung fu everywhere. Even though I do love kung fu, but they're more than just kung fu artists, aren't they? So that's why I do what I do.
And I know one other question that kind of occurred to me is that you talked before the camera started about like what you saw as kind of what things might be like in 50 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's useful when you think about a country to kind of compare it to another country. There are other countries which are kind of more racially diverse than this country, like in the Middle East or Africa, like lots of different ethnic groups living in the same country where maybe none has the super majority or none has the majority at all. I know if there was kind of a multiracial society that you thought, let's try and aim for that, what's the closest example you can think of?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't necessarily thought about. I think what's that country? What are they called? They're in the Indian Ocean.
Sri Lanka,
Mauritius.
Mauritius.
I think Mauritius, because I think they represent all religious holidays: Buddhism, Islam, Hindu, and I think you know, they all get along.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, of what I understand, I could be wrong. You go there, they will fight. Right?
Okay.
But and I don't think superiority or supremacy is a necessary factor there.
Do you think that they get along because each community is kind of very insularly focused, or do they get along because they maybe focus less on community than or their own racial group, and it matters less to them than in other countries?
So for example, the only reason why, to me, racial grouping is important is because the dominant society dominated with that reality, and the only way to fix it is to focus on it to fix it. Okay. It's the only way. I always give this analogy, like if we are here and we are called the Speaker's Corner crew, and people run towards us with axes and they go, we're going to kill the Speaker's Corner crew, we might not identify as being the same, But we know that there are people there who are trying to kill us, so it makes sense for us to come together to tackle the axe-wielding speakers called the killers to save ourselves. And for me,
And
black
when
people
you're in
are that.
battle, in war, that obviously makes sense.
Makes sense,
But
yes.
we're not in a battle.
Well, what I'm saying is, it is a kind of war because when you have no power, you're always relying on
You
the.
don't not have any power.
Well, I would disagree. I would say
You don't think you as an individual and your kith and kin have any power?
No, I don't think any power that can actually really have great kind of like change. At the
So
moment.
what would have to change, or what would it look like for you to think that you do have power?
So right now, what will have to happen is all black people, or a higher majority of black people, have to be synchronized in black women. Meaning, we are black people.
And doing what?
We are black people who want betterment for black people. So everything we do is based on black activity. So when we write a book, it's about black stuff. When we make a play, it's about black stuff.
Is that a world we want to be in, where everyone just focuses on their
No.
own?
So you as a European, I cannot tell you what to do. So, for example, some people might find that women have been mistreated through men historically, right? And it's necessary for women to come together to work on women's issues. That doesn't mean that men should come together on men's issues. It just means because men have been dominating,
But it also
makes
means-
sense for them to fix their situation.
But it also means that women don't have to fight for women's rights on their own. Men can do it with them.
Well, what I'm saying is there are
But
certain.
you're saying that
Well, no. So self-determination is valuable. Meaning, black people working on black issues is more important than black people working everyone on black issues.
does the same apply to gender issues?
Once again, because I'm male, I cannot dictate to a female how they want to run their craft. Where females says, you know what, as females, we want men to be with us every step of the way, I will support that. If they say, as females, we want to be separated in these things, I will support that. So I'm saying the dominated people have to make the choice. Does that make sense? So right now, like, if black people decide to work on black issues, it's not going to affect white people hardly anyway. Yeah, you're going to do what you're doing, right? So I don't know why it would be an issue. What I'm saying,
We're not all living in isolation. We're all living together.
Yeah,
We're
but-
working in the same workplaces.
yeah, but you can still do that. You can still do that as a black person who's dedicated to helping black people. So he can come to work and give you a banana cake, and you say that's a nice banana cake, and talk and play video games. But then when he's at home, he's making sure that he's children education and black history. He's making sure that he's writing books on black stuff. He's making sure that he's meeting with other black people to train and educate and make sure they show self-love. It doesn't affect you and your banana cake at all. You can still eat your banana cake in your workforce if you're black
a rum
friend.
cake.
Well, there you go. You can get probably the best rum cake from a black friend. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm saying. It shouldn't affect you. You know what I mean? And it should be the perfect solution. But black people have been trained to be subservient and not focus on
another
black
comment or reflection I had. You seem to always talk about black people as one homogenous group. Surely they're not.
Well, that's my failure that we're not. That's one of my biggest failures. That
What do you mean?
that black people do not think.
You think they should be
100%.
thinking as a one homogenous group?
Yeah,
Really?
one homogeneous group with that is a collection of individuals. Yes, meaning when challenges face black people, they face it as a mass, right? They face like there are black issues that affect black people. So the solution has to come in masses. It can't come as individuals.
But you're not, and you shouldn't be one homogenous group.
Well, I identify as a homogeneous group of individuals.
Because where do you draw?
Does a distinction need to be drawn between black people from groups who went through slavery and
those that
Mm-hmm.
colonialism and countries that were maybe much less colonized or not enslaved?
Yeah. So I think that each black group has to have a self-catering mechanism. Like the Somali brothers have a different challenge they go through to say the Nigerian brothers, right? But they also face a similar challenge. So while they're fixing their own individual challenge, they work together on a similar challenge. Just like as humans, we have human problems. So the black people will unite with the humans to work on the human problems. The human problems might be white supremacy, I don't know. What I'm saying is you come together to work on actual problems. But you in your group, you actually have your individual things you're working on. But you identify that there are black issues that you come together. Hence why we talk about black betterment building. Like everything I say should be 100% logical. It should actually that actually makes sense. And if it's practiced, you're going to see change. So all the challenges you see black people go through will be overnight. The same reason you don't see certain crimes from the Jewish community because they practice group economics. So they practice group love, a group, whatever the word is. They practice group stuff, right? And it works. So it's been observed, it's been demonstrated. So that is a solution.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, in some countries, they're sort of ethnically divided, racially divided,
Right.
because somebody, Europeans probably, came and decided these are the boundaries, and now we're all living in this new country. And in some of those countries, like, they would have either all been in the same boat in terms of colonialism or a very similar boat in terms of colonialism, and yet you would still find kind of conflicts between groups that see each other differently because they're all trying to get a bigger slice of the pie. They're all practicing kind of nepotism to each other, and that can result in quite a fractured society, quite an unstable society. It's the kind of problems that contributed towards the Syrian war. So, like, I know, do you foresee, like, what plans do you have in place to kind of, in the future, let's say kind of black betterment is successful, and then kind of once kind of black people are in broadly the same sort of position as other people, if all those groups are still thinking, well, let's think about our own community and prioritize our own community, do you see that as a danger of, like, leading to a more fractured society, a less harmonious society, or that kind of thing?
I generally see black people as overtly kind, where they don't need to be. And part of the training is to never treat people how they treated us. So if black people were to ever come in power, you as a European never have to worry about us collectively treating you how you collectively treat us. So this nepotism,
like in South Africa?
Yeah. I mean, right now,
Is there a possibility, or?
No, because the South Africans are the minority and they still own the majority of the wealth.
Yeah.
Let's break it down. You have the brother Mandela. He was in jail for being a freedom fighter. When he came out, didn't mistreat any white people.
True.
They kept all their land. That's why he's a white hero, isn't he? Because he came out and he never treated the white people how they treated him.
Sure.
That's pretty much black people all through and through.
Yeah, there's also, for example, a political party now where at their rallies they will kind of sing the sort of songs like "Kill the Burr, Kill the Burr." So
that's understandable.
It's understandable, and so
There were many things in the past.
like if you're saying that it's understandable that they might still have this kind of hatred because of the crimes that they suffered from,
makes sense.
Then isn't it also understandable that they might kind of feel like retaliating similarly?
I mean, I can't say anything about it. All I can say is...
But earlier you said white people don't have to worry, they'll never be treated, and now you're saying it's understandable.
Let's ask this question. What's stopping those people singing that song from killing the boards now? Nothing.
They don't have power.
Well, they do. They outnumber them.
Well, they don't have, like, economic power. Like, a lot of... There's a kind of there's a sort of group of black people who are
Europeans should fear. They are correct to fear that some people who are mistreated might want to mistreat them back. However, the things I'm pushing isn't about that.
Okay.
And rightly so, you should fear that you have raped one too many people, you have stole one too many gold, you have killed one too many people, and the ancestors are going to try to get you back. That's life, right? Let me tell you something. If Africans did to Europeans what Europeans did to Africans, you would kill us. As soon as you get a bomb or a stick or a bomb stick, you'll throw it. You wouldn't hesitate.
Human beings start the story where they want. Their memory extends back to the last time they were hurt.
Right.
They don't think a little bit further back, oh, actually, my ancestors hurt them first. And then the other side doesn't think a little bit further back and think, oh, but, our ancestors hurt them first.
The difference between
human beings have this potential to be kind of selfish and think about what affects them and their interests.
But when you talk about the grand interactions between people of European descent and people of African descent, you'll find that when Europeans came to Africa, the Africans were very inclusive. They were like, come in. The Europeans documented this. But this was seen as a weakness, as a vulnerability. And these guys, they're going to be easy to conquer and rape and pillage and so forth. That's what happened. people think I'm a fool by saying, why don't you do it back to the Europeans? I'm saying no.
So can you say that again?
People say you must be a fool. Why do you not do it back to Europeans, right? Because our hearts just ain't made that way. We're just not that wicked.
Okay.
You know?
Do you see, I know, examples of, civil war and genocide in Africa after kind of Europe, after colonialism, as this doesn't say anything about all human beings have this innate potential to be violent and savage if they're placed in that situation. Like Europeans, if like kind of the world had been changed and it was Europeans growing up in Africa, and then let's ignore like the sun, for example, let's ignore that far, but if Europeans were growing up in Africa and they went through the African experience, and then there could be a European kind of genocide in Rwanda, for example. Like I kind of believe that all human beings kind of like have this, broadly the same. All human being groups have broadly the same psychology and potential for violence.
I disagree. I think where you live and your culture can heavily contribute to the violence you to other people.
Okay.
There are countries and people that are less violent than other countries and places.
Yes.
I think living in a cold environment, having less resources, having less food to survive. You know what I'm saying, brother? Yeah, I think these are contributing factors to why someone might act savage.
Okay, but those aren't. Would you say that those are genetic, or would you say that if black people had grown up in a cold environment, like you posit, that then they might have developed it? They would likely have developed a similar culture to Europeans.
Yes. So fortunate for black people we didn't, right?
Sorry?
Fortunate for black people that we didn't.
Okay.
Because we might go around the world doing similar stuff.
Okay. All right.
This is one theory that people push forward of. So they're trying to ask, what is it that made the Europeans act so savagely to the world? And then the Europeans go, no, the world is savage. You're right.
Yes.
Human has the capacity to just be evil to everyone, right? But there is a particular violence that was done in Europe to Europeans and to non-Europeans, and people have tried to work out what is it in your environment, if so, that is making you so this way. And people push forward lack of resources, lack of food, cold weather, these kind of things.
Okay. Like, from what I've looked at in world history and, classical history and medieval history, I found examples of absolute barbarism and evil.
All over the world.
Yes. And what I see different about European barbarism when they was that they were, the most powerful people in the world at a time when they had a greater technological advantage than had ever been seen before in history. Like the Romans, they had some technological advantage over the Gauls or something, or the Middle Easterners, but it's not as vast as having manufacturing and gunpowder and advanced shipbuilding, ability to project your power across the seas and then take the wealth and transport it back, not transport it over land, which is kind of less efficient, but with boats. So I don't see it as kind of a reflection of unique barbarism in the mindsets. I see it as like, these are the...
You think it's technology and opportunity and power, right?
Yeah, it's just the circumstances.
I'll put it like this. When you look at the story of Mansa Musa, right? You have a king who has a whole lot of wealth. This is the Moroccans and the Spanish, they document this, right? And the Egyptians. And this individual had wealth, power, and influence. And what he decided to do was to go from city to city, giving away wealth. That was his nature. That was the nature of the people there.
Okay.
Very different.
Well, I know that sounds just like one example. It could be cherry picking, and I could say, look at this European king who was so generous.
Can you give me his name, please?
I could Google European kings who are generous now, but I didn't prepare that topic, so I don't know.
Well, when you do, let me know, because what I'm saying is you have a person who has wealth, power, and influence. And with that, they go around giving away their wealth, power, and influence. While with your one, they're actually going and stealing. So,
you
can't see me, no?
I might.
We said we're almost done.
Yeah, almost done. Yeah, let's
Let me just say. So we conclude that James is a wicked person.
There's a bit of a black woman.
James, do you want to be with a black woman, James? Is that what it is?
I have.
All right.
Because a lot of people who argue
for you, I
for
guess.
mixed race relationships themselves.
Yeah.
Big up the interracial relationships. Tell him, James.
So yeah, I'm not. I can't say I'm against mixed relationships, but I can say I'm pro black people loving black people, and that is part of a solution of black men.
Okay.
So you know,
Good.
you and your black wife. Good night.
I'm not going out with anyone at the moment. But yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the discussion.
I know what we said earlier.
White
As well.
power, white power.
From your man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Covering your faces, you man stand here. The man that covering their faces, isn't it?
I'll talk in it, but I'm not
You, after I talk here, you're behind the camera. Speak up. You give me the death roll, the death toll, innit? We're doing it for that Ken, innit? You man, come on, man. You know the man. Let me know when he's rolling.
Solidarity, man.
So that this far people, I beg you, some of the brothers, even if you're not talking, some of the brothers, how can you look right here? So there's numbers of us here, innit? At least there's number of us standing behind, innit?
Somali, I know that.
Yeah, come on, bro.